Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So basically, I want to know there are three types of purpose. That when we talk about purpose, is the purpose blueprint, and that's just the overall design, like just for people. And I truly believe that as people, we are designed to thrive. A lot of times we've been conditioned to just survive, to live. I'm barely getting through, but I think the overall thing about our purpose blueprint is that we as people, all of us have this same blueprint. We are designed to thrive. We are designed to be successful. We are designed to be leaders in different areas. What we've been called to do. So that's the big blueprint. Then we have our purpose fingerprint. This is more individualized. That yes, we're all called to thrive and succeed, but the fingerprint is our unique way of doing them. So even though you and I have the same purpose blueprint, how we go about doing that is that fingerprint. And that's what we're going to talk about today is what is your purpose fingerprint, the specific way that you are designed to succeed, that you are designed to survive. And then we have our purpose footprint. This is where we are going to find the most satisfaction, in different areas in society. And so we'll deal a little bit with the different types or the different places where, you may fit in, or where your purpose, the best place for your purpose to really be successful. And so when we talk about purpose and dealing with Keith, we talk about what's inside of you, or what's inside of the individual. And there are three layers. We have our personal flaws, our self-perception, and then we have purpose. So when we talk about personal flaws, this is typically the things that we've been through. We can easily recount our mistakes, things that we've done in the past, things that we wish we would have done different. And we tend to internalize those things, and very rarely do we let them go, or do we allow ourselves to be free from the things that we've been through, or what we see as personal flaws. And then another layer is our self-perception. And that's just, how you see you, or how we see ourselves when we look in the mirror right now. What do you see about yourself? And then we have the purpose layer. That's the real you, what you were originally designed to do. And I always like to point out that our past, if you look at this particular page here, our past is only what 1/3 of who we are, but we tend to make it the big thing. Oh, I've made so many mistakes, and beating ourselves up. But really, our past is only 1/3 of who we are. We have our present and we have our future. We have our self-perception and we have our purpose. And so I tell people, don't get so hung up on the past, and anything that happened 10 minutes ago is part of the past, and so you take those things into consideration, of course, because you don't want to keep making the same mistakes. But some people get so stuck on what they've done in the past, and they never, forgive themselves or allow themselves to move forward. And it becomes a big part of how they see themselves. And so what I tell people is that that's just 1/3. Yes, it's a layer, but you have 2 more layers on top of that. So, it's not as important as our self-perception. And it's definitely not as important as what we were originally designed to be and do. So purpose ends up being the original intent for your existence, what you were designed to be. And a lot of times when we talk about purpose, people tend to equate purpose as to what they're doing right now. Well, I work in accounting, or I work in finance, or I work in this, or, they tend to equate purpose with what they're doing. My purpose is to be a great mom. My purpose is to be a great wife. And it's all these external things. But purpose is what you were designed to be, that is irrelevant to what you're doing. Yes, I am somebody's mother, but that's not my purpose. It might be a calling, I used to work as an admin assistant. That wasn't my purpose. That was my assignment for that time. So I don't know what you do in your day-to-day life, work-wise. Sometimes people's work is their purpose. They figured out this is my purpose and they maneuvered into a career field that speaks to their purpose. But usually, people tend to equate their purpose to whatever they're doing at the moment. And your purpose doesn't change based upon what you do. And so we're going to focus on what Keith was designed to be. And if I'm talking too fast, or you need me to slow down, or you got a question,
no, you're good.
Just let me know. So let's talk about design. Let's talk about design. What are you sitting in right now?
Just a little, I guess, a little love seat looking thing. A little
Okay.
small chair.
Okay. So understand that, for me, I'm sitting in these rolling chairs with the wheels and the casters on it. And so no matter, you're sitting in your chair, I'm sitting in my chair, but the one thing they have in common is that someone designed these chairs. And they designed these chairs with a specific purpose in mind. And that purpose was for someone else to use them, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And so that the person who designed these chairs already had that in mind, that I am designing this chair for this particular use. And so understand that when you were born, when you were created, there was already a design for your use. It was already known what you were supposed to be. So just like these chairs, it wasn't, that someone created a chair and then said, I wonder what's gonna, what is this gonna be for? It doesn't happen that way. They create the chair knowing someone's gonna sit in this chair. So just like when someone creates something as simple as a chair, when you understand your design, first thing it does, it produces order. That you're sitting in a chair, there's a particular order to how we sit in the chair. You approach it usually from the front. Some kids jump over it, but we as adults don't do that anymore. We usually approach a chair from the front. We bend our knees and we sit down, we sit down on it. So because why? Because we understand that's how you approach a chair. Am I correct?
Right.
So when you understand Keith's design, you will understand how you are to approach yourself, but then you also begin to let other people understand this is how you need to approach Keith because Keith has been designed in such a way that you must approach it in an orderly fashion. You must approach Keith in this way. And that adds a level of confidence. Some people might not like it when you get to that point, but that's on them, not you. Also is properly used and not abused. Now imagine, okay, let's say for my chair, it had my little rolling casters on it. Imagine if I flipped this chair over and tried to sit down on it, what would happen?
Or fall or hurt yourself.
All right. What about
Break
if you would
chair.
have, what about you? What about if you would have flipped your chair over and tried to sit on it?
Yeah. Be interesting.
So the same thing with this chair is that because the person designed it in such a specific way that it had to be used in such a specific way that if someone decides to misuse how that chair was created, it's not going to end well. And so just like us, when we understand our purpose, when we understand our design, we make sure that we're not misusing our own gifts, our own talents, and then B, other people are not misusing our gifts and our talents and our design. Third thing about understanding your purpose, understanding your design is that it allows you, Keith, to perform at your optimum level. Just like these chairs, once we understand its design, we understand how it's supposed to be used, we're both sitting in our chairs. We're not falling on the ground. We're not, the chair is not flipped over. We are using these chairs at its optimal level. So same thing for you. When you understand your purpose and your design, you can begin to work at your optimum level, because often a lot of your decisions will go through the ideal of, is this what I was designed to do? And it gives you the power a lot to say no to so many things people will try to drag you into, trust me.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, as it pleases the one who created it. Even though the people who made these chairs, they don't know what's from a can of paint. But the fact that these chairs are working, there hasn't been any recalls or anything like that, it pleases the person who created it. I don't know if you're a handyman at all or a craftsman at all, or if you make things, but I make jewelry. Well, I used to. And when I gave someone a piece of jewelry and I would see them wearing it, that pleased me, because they were wearing it just as I had designed it. And there was this one lady, I had made her a piece with this, it had like a pendant or something on it, and she wore the necklace, but the pendant was missing. And I recognized that, wait a minute, I made this with the pendant on it in a certain way. Where is it at? And so the person, for me, I know when my designs are not being used correctly. And so for you, it will be, it will be made known when when your purpose is not being used correctly. A lot of times it might be just dissatisfaction, job dissatisfaction, dissatisfaction in life, just a kind of, I just don't know type thing. And what am I supposed to be doing? And so, there's not a lot of pleasure in trying to figure out who you are. But what happens when you understand your purpose, Keith, is that oftentimes it will lead to a position of leadership. I don't know, what do you do in your day-to-day life now? What do you do?
So I work in cybersecurity at TVA.
Oh, okay. Is that a position of leadership there, or?
Yeah, I'm what they call a program manager. So I design
Okay,
policy and
cool.
procedure for things.
Oh, well, cool. Are you satisfied with that? Are you happy in that? Or it pays the bills?
It pays the bills, and I've been in it for so long. I think I'm kind of like, you go to school for that stuff, and then it's kind of like, it's not really who I am anymore.
Okay.
I think I've kind of outgrown it, or
And that happens.
searching. Yeah.
That happens. But definitely when you figure out what your purpose is, the position of leadership that's going to satisfy you the most is going to be in alignment with who you were designed to be. It produces productivity. When you begin to understand this is what I'm designed to do, you will begin to come up with different ideals and different things that once again align with your purpose. Provision. Definitely, once you begin to create these things, it could be, a service, a product, it could be anything. It still may be something in cybersecurity, who knows, but it may be something totally different than what you're doing. But there's going to be a level of provision in your purpose, because there's somebody out there who needs what you have, and they're willing to pay for your design, whatever it is that you create. And then, of course, personal fulfillment. We want to be fulfilled. And I think, to me, sometimes that outweighs monetary things, that you might be getting paid big bucks to do this cybersecurity, but it's kind of like, oh, I've outgrown it. I think I'm ready to move on. And then you may create something of your own that might not pay as much as what you're doing, but man, it feels good. And so as long as, no, I don't want you to go into poverty eating ramen noodles or anything like that, but definitely there's going to be more satisfaction. So we're going to go through these 5 questions. So before we start these 5 questions, do you have any questions before we start?
Yeah, no, it's been good so far. Yeah.
Okay, so you got a pen, paper?
Yep.
All right. So 5 questions to discover your purpose. And make sure on your paper you're gonna number these. Number these 1 through 5. Going in a straight line. Leave a little bit of space in between them. So the first question typically tends to be the toughest one for most people. The question is, what do you see in society that burdens you or grieves you? This is something that causes some type of emotional reaction, and it's been there for a while. Something more than, I can't stand when somebody tries to cut in front of me and don't put their blinker on. Yeah, that makes you mad, ticks you off, but it doesn't really burden you or grieve you. Some people have things like, child abuse, um, homelessness is a burden to them or it grieves them. So if you had to pick something in society, think about how you respond when you see different news stories, or when you're riding down the street and you may see things in your community. What do you see in society that burdens you or grieves you? And when you figure that out, kind of share that with me. This tends to be the toughest one for most people.
Yeah. I think that's a little bit of my problem. I feel like I'm kind of numb to a lot of stuff right now just because of life itself. You tend to
Okay.
kind of reflect more in and not really.
Okay. So tell me,
Um,
what makes you angry?
um, when people really don't put forth an effort to take control of their own life,
To take what?
control of their own life, and responsible for their own decisions.
Okay. Makes you angry. People don't take responsibility for their own lives. Is there anything that makes you sad? Or that just, grieves you, that whenever, you might see a news story and it's like,
Probably the drug abuse where parents are overdosing and leaving their children.
say that
Um,
again, is it drug abuse?
Drug abuse and pretty much ODing and leaving their children, without a parent.
Okay. So here's what I'm kind of hearing is that, what makes you angry is people not taking responsibility for their own lives. And then, the whole thing about, as far as the drug abuse and things like that, I want to say that that's almost kind of akin to people not taking responsibility for their own lives and, turning to, drugs to solve a problem or drugs to numb an issue or something like that. So if I had to, and like I said, you have time to kind of go back and whittle this down and be more clear. But I think, for you, your answer might be, people who don't take personal responsibility for their life, whether it's with children, with drugs, with anything, they people just taking responsibility. When you think about child abuse, how does that relate to someone taking responsibility? Typically what I've seen for in child abuse is that the parent who's abusing the child tends to blame the child for a lot of bad things that are happening and take their anger out on who? The child. They use the child as an outlet for their anger and whatever. And I think that kind of goes back into take responsibility for your own life. Don't blame the child. Don't turn to drugs. You see how that all connects? And so I would say for you, for that answer for question one, could be the thing that bugs you the most, that grieves you the most, is seeing people who don't take personal responsibility for their lives. So you can kind of go ahead and write that down
Uh
for your number one. Are you ready?
huh.
Okay. So now question number two. there's several different types or groups that you might be called to. And so I want you to take a little bit of time to look at this. Is there any group that you are passionate about the most? Sometimes it's just people in general. It could be, it pisses me off when men don't take responsibility for their own action, or, it makes me angry when women don't take responsibility, or it could be just people in general.
I think it's just people in general.
Okay, so for your question number 2, just say people. Okay, you ready for the next question?
I am.
All right. So the question number 3 is, what would your message be to this group? Or basically, what is the objective? So I want you to imagine you're at this big speaking engagement. They've invited Keith Lane to come in and talk to people about personal responsibility. And you have one message, one overall message to get to them, and it has to be boiled down into one sentence. What would you want to tell these people? You may never see them again, and this is the main thing that you want people who won't take responsibility for their life. What is your message to them?
Probably something to the effect of your circumstances do not determine your outcome.
Say that again.
Probably your circumstances do not determine your outcome.
Ooh, I like that. So you write that down. Circumstances do not determine your outcome. So you got that written down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next question. You're going to look at this list here, and you're going to choose 2 words of how you would like to help those people. And if you don't see a word here, you can, of course, make up your own. But, do you want to, motivate them? Do you want to teach them? So look at that list, take your time, and choose 2 words of how you want to help these people come to the understanding that their circumstances don't determine their outcome.
Probably challenge and discover.
Challenge and discover.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in question number 4, you're going to write those 2 words down.
Okay.
All right, last question. So now you talk to these people, you got these people who, are just not taking responsibility for their own lives. You want them to know that circumstances don't determine your outcome. You're helping them discover this. You are challenging them to get to that point where they discover this ideal. And then they're walking out the door, Keith. You may never see these people again. What do you want the above group to become as a result of your influence, that you've stood up, you talk to these people, you might be with them one-on-one, they're leaving your presence, and you want them to go out and do what? And these are just examples. You may have something totally different in mind, but after you've given them all the information that you've had, you've challenged them, you've helped them discover the fact that circumstances don't determine your outcome. They're walking out the door, and they're going to go out there and become what, or do what?
Probably maximize their potential.
Maximize their potential. So in line number 5, I want you to write maximize their potential. All righty. Those are the only questions I'm going to ask you. And so now we're going to put this all together. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
So now what you're going to do, you're going to take your answers and you're going to, on another part of your paper, you're going to write them in this order. Whatever you wrote for number 4, you're going to put that first. Whatever you wrote for number 2, you're going to put that second, number 3, and then number 5.
Okay.
So what do you have there? Let me make sure we got the right order.
So 4 is challenge and discover. 2 is people. 3 was circumstances do not determine your outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And number 5, I had, can you read my own handwriting? Something about potential.
To do what? To max. Okay.
I can't read my own handwriting.
I'm like, what was that?
It says something about potential. I can't read my handwriting.
Maximize.
That's it. That's it. Look at you. Oh man.
So now, what you're going to do with that, Keith? We're gonna have to, use some our English and grammar skills and language skills. You're going to take those pieces and you are going to make a coherent sentence. You might need to add some, some ands and does or whatever. And so this is an example of someone's purpose statement is to motivate and empower. That was their number 4. People, that was their number 2. The number 3, to motivate and empower people to discover their purpose. That was their number 3. And then in order to live fulfilling lives, and that was their number 5. And so you see how they, you had to add, some different words, the A and the ands. So I want you to look at what you wrote. And if you need to go back and change, a lot of people tend to go back and change one of these 2 words to really make it make sense. So look at what you've written, and I want you to make a coherent sentence. Don't add a bunch of different words. Right. But if you need to change those 2 words to make it make sense, but we know for sure you're dealing with people who don't take responsibility, and you want them to know that their circumstances don't control their outcome, and you want them to maximize their potential. So if you need to change anything, you can change these 2 words.
Okay.
To make
I think I like sense. The ones I've got.
Okay. So what do we have? Are you finished or you need more time?
No, I just kind of free flow with it here.
Okay.
I'm going to challenge people to discover that their circumstances do not determine their outcome to maximize their potential.
Okay, so say that one more time.
So, kind of saying this kind of a little bit out of order, but gonna challenge people to discover that their circumstances do not determine their outcome to reach their maximum potential.
To discover that circumstances don't determine. I'm writing it down here on my end. Outcome. Okay. Cool. So maximize their potential. And so, you're going, I want you, like I said, when we get done here, you're gonna go over that and you're gonna, maybe tweak it even further or anything like that. So I want you to say it one more time and say, my name is Keith Lane and my purpose is to, and say it with confidence because it's being recorded.
Yeah, okay. My name is Keith Lane and I'm going to challenge people to discover that no matter your circumstances, it does not control your outcome because God is in control and will maximize your potential.
Okay. So now let me help you out with that. take out that no matter, because you had it good when you just had circumstances don't determine your outcome. That was perfect. You want to challenge people to discover their circumstances don't determine their outcome in order for them to maximize their potential.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And so just kind of keep repeating that once we get off the line here, you know, kind of keep looking at that, repeating that, repeating that, repeating that. And then what, you know, the next step for you is going to be, okay, how are you going to get this done? And, you know, just to be open to ideas. It may be one-on-one coaching. It may be in your book that you want to write, you know, that your book may be focusing on how to help people, how to challenge people and help them discover that their circumstances don't determine their outcome. That may be the focus of your book. And, you know, we talked about, you know, once you discover your purpose, then you figure out where are you going to, where are the different places you're going to live this out. And so we have fields. Every society has what we call 8 fields that no matter where you go, from Chattanooga to even the remotest village in unknown parts of the world, they're going to have some form of these fields. There's going to be a home field that deals with, you know, family, husband, wives, children. There's going to be an education field. You know, you have to ask yourself, how would your purpose, or does your purpose fit in the education field? Of course, you know, teachers, students, you know, is there, you know, can you impact students by telling them that their circumstances don't determine their outcome? You know, do kids need to hear that? In the business field, you know, do people in the business field need to hear that message from you? Who in the business field, you know, could it be failing businesses who are trying, you know, ready to go bankrupt or something? You can go in there with this motivational message or something like that. Government, that's another field, and that deals, of course, anything in the political arena to even social services. That's the government field. The medical field, you know, that's kind of, you know, hospitals, doctors, anything in the medical field. And you have the arts field, media, technology, music, arts, all that is considered the arts field. You know, could your message play out in the arts field? Writing a book, writing and publishing is part of the arts field. And then you have the ministry field. As far as, once again, it deals with religion or any kind of spirituality, but that's, you know, people in the ministry field. That, once again, that could be, you know, speaking. I don't know if you're a minister or anything like that, or you know, what your religious beliefs are, but you know, you know, you may write a book, you know, dealing from the spiritual aspect of your circumstances don't determine your outcome. You know, you think about Jesus and how he was you know, born, and all the drama around his conception, but it didn't determine his outcome. Oh, wait a minute, I missed a field, didn't I? 1, 2, and then the last one should have been 8. Is called the regions field, and that just deals with, you know, your community. It could go from you know, Chattanooga to, you know, regional, the Southeast, or you could be ministering over in South Africa or anything like that. So that's just the region field. And so once again, when you look at your purpose, and it doesn't have to fit into just one of these areas, you might see various areas where, you know what, I could take my purpose into the home field. I could take my purpose into the education field, the business field. So it doesn't have to be just one. We do typically have a primary field where we feel the most passionate about, but we can have our feet, you know, in many different fields, and we can tweak our messages based upon the field that we're in. And so your job at this point is, now that you understand Keith is designed to challenge people to discover that their circumstances don't determine their outcome. And, in that, within that message, you will be talking about personal responsibility and things like that. It's going to develop. And, you're being called, let's say you're being called to the education field to, speak to teens at an alternative school, and so you're going to, once you really internalize what this purpose is, you're going to start seeing different ideals and opportunities and ways for you to live that out, as far as, your writing and trying to and figuring out what your voice is going to be and what you're going to talk about. This may be something that, you may write a book about, all of the ways that, a person can make sure that their circumstances don't determine their outcome, if that makes sense to you.
It does.
So you have just discovered your purpose, Keith.
Woohoo!
Woo! And it's not, it's not rocket science. And the more you look at that sentence, the more you're going to tweak it. Try not to add a lot of different words to it. Try not to add a whole bunch of things to it. Let the purpose be the purpose, and then what you will add is the ways in which you will accomplish this purpose. And so, because you want to keep it short and sweet, something you can remember. And so if somebody say, hey, Keith, what is it that you do? And you say, what? I help people maximize their potential. How? By challenging them to discover that their circumstances don't control their outcomes. Well, how do you do that? Well, I have this book, I have, you can hire me to come in. I don't know if you're interested in public speaking or things like that, but.
Doing Toastmasters right now.
Excuse me?
I'm doing Toastmasters now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so once again, you want to keep the purpose statement short, but then you want to begin to expand on the different ways in how that might look. And then really think about the different places where you can take your purpose to within these fields here. And don't forget the field number 8, it should be regions. They only gave me 7 dots, I guess. I didn't catch that. So we have any questions?
No, it was good.
Okay. So
that was awesome.
Give me your purpose one more time. Say it with confidence.
The way we looked at it was to challenge people to discover that their circumstances do not control or not determine their outcome, to maximize their potential.
Okay, so great. You feel good about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
So there you go. That's your purpose. You're going to help people. You're going to challenge them to discover that their circumstances do not determine their outcome in order for them to maximize their potential. And then you, like I said, you are going to expand on how that looks. How does it look when a person is maximizing their potential, and begin to create things to help you get that message across.
Okay. I'm writing down a couple of things you just said.
Okay.
Okay.
And
that was awesome. Thank you.
You are welcome. I am going to send you a link.
Okay.
To the video when I get it edited. Hopefully, the last time I tried to record something, it went off into cyberspace somewhere, and I never got it back. So
yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't happen here. And so I will send you an email, and it'd be a private link on YouTube that only you will have access to it, unless you share it with somebody.
Thank you. I appreciate you doing that. It's good seeing you again. It's been a long time. Hopefully this won't be the last time.
Well, hopefully not. And like I said, when you're ready to move forward with the book process and you want to kind of figure out where to go from that, hop on my website, make another appointment, and we can talk about things in that particular direction.
Yeah, I'll start my outline here pretty soon, and then I'll schedule some time with you and go from there.
All righty. Well, you enjoy the rest of this day.
All right.
All right,
Thank
Keith.
you, Laura.
All right.
I appreciate
Bye-bye.
you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Stop share. Stop recording.